Did I drop something on the floor? Mrs. Partridge asked. No, nothing whatsoever on the floor, Phoebe said. Leaning against the back of the sofa was an enormous sword. Phoebe examined the blade. Careful you don't cut yourself, Mrs. Partridge said. Phoebe stepped back. Even I found this a little unsettling, that Mrs. Partridge could see what Phoebe was doing, even though she couldn't actually see her. Mrs. Partridge said, "Isn't this a grandiful room?" "Grandiful," Phoebe said. "Yes, most grandiful, and a little pecul pec peculable, too, I suppose," Mrs. Partridge said. "Peculiable?" Phoebe said. "Phoebe and I have to be going." We backed toward the door. "By the way," Mrs. Partridge said, as we reached the doorway, "what was it you wanted?" Phoebe looked at me, and I looked at Phoebe. "We were just passing by," I said, "and we thought we would see how you were doing." "That's nice," Mrs. Partridge said, patting her knees. "Oh, Phoebe, I think I met your brother." Phoebe said, "I don't have a brother." "Oh," Mrs. Partridge tapped her head, "I guess this old noggin isn't as sharp as it used to be." As we left, she said, "Goodness, you girls stay up late." Outside, Phoebe said, "At least I was able to do a preliminary investigation without arousing any suspicion. I'll make a list of items which the police will want to investigate further: the sword, the suspicious spot on the floor, the several hair strands which I picked up." "Phoebe, you know when you said that your mother would never leave without an explanation. Well, she might. A mother, might do that." Phoebe said, "My mother wouldn't. My mother loves me." "But she might love you and still not have been able to explain." I was thinking about the letter my mother left me. Maybe it would be too painful for her to explain. Maybe it would seem too permanent. "I don't know what in the world you're talking about." "She might not come back, Phoebe." "Shut up, Sal." "She might not. I just think that you should be prepared." "She is too coming back." "You don't know what you're talking about. You're being horrid." Phoebe ran into the house. When I got home, I had crept up to my room. I remember what my father had said to me that one night. "She's not coming back." He had he had said it straight out like that. I said, "She is too." He said, "No, she isn't." And we argued back and forth. I was just like Phoebe. I didn't want to believe it. On the day before, Phoebe had shown me some things in her room and that reminded me of her mother. A handmade birthday card, a photograph of Phoebe and her mother, and a bar of lavender soap. When Phoebe pulled a blouse out of the closet, she said she could see her mother standing at the ironing board, smoothing the blouse with her hand. My mother once said that she thought she was the only person in the world who actually enjoys ironing, Phoebe said. The wall opposite Phoebe's bed was painted violet. She said, "My mother painted it last summer while I painted the trim at the bottom." And I knew exactly what Phoebe was doing and exactly why. I had done the same thing when my mother left. My father was right. My mother did haunt our house in Bybanks, and the fields and the barn. She was everywhere. You couldn't look at a single thing without being reminded of her. When we moved to Euclid, one of the first things I did was unpack gifts my mother had given me. On the wall, I tacked the poster of Red Hen, which my mother had given me for my fifth birthday, and the drawing of the barn she had given me for my last birthday. On my desk were pictures of her and cards from her. On the bookshelf of the, on the bookshelf, the wooden animals and books were presents from her. Sometimes I would walk around the room and look at each of these things and try to remember exactly the day she had given them to me. I tried to picture what the weather was like, and what room we were in, and what she was wearing, and what precisely she had said. This was not a game. It was necessary, crucial thing to do. If I did not have these things and remember these occasions, then she might disappear forever. She might never have been. In my